Hello and welcome, dear student. I welcome you again to this wonderful lesson. Remember, with me, we are doing social studies in Standard 8, and we have been together up to this far. And social studies, you remember, it is a subject that looks at the issues that affect our society. So to this far, we have looked at a number of issues, but today I want to take you to this wonderful topic, and this is unit number 9, and we are looking at the Roman civilization. The Roman civilization. This is a very good unit you are going to enjoy. Remember, we looked at the Greeks. When we looked at the Greek civilization, we looked at where the Greeks civilization was and the factors for the rise and the contributions, factors for the decline. We looked at the city-states of Sparta and Athens, but that one, it was good. And really, it was good. But in a similar way, because the Greeks, it was the European civilization, now we are also going to look at another European civilization, that is the Roman civilization. So let's be together up to the end of this unit. Now, before we proceed, I want just to remind you of the work in Standard 8 about social and environmental studies. In Standard 8, there are about 26 units, and it is your duty and your responsibility to make sure that everything you cover everything. At least you have a look on each and every unit. But lucky you go to school. But here now, there are these videos that you can also access at any time, whether on YouTube. Sometimes you have access of all these videos at home. Please remember to follow them up to the end. So here are some of all the topics that we are talking about. So we have looked at about 8 up to number 8. Now today we are on unit number 9. Unit number 9, which, as I said, the Roman civilization. So all these, they are waiting for you. They are waiting for you to cover or to look at. So be very attentive as we continue in this series up to the end of the unit 26. Now we are looking at the Roman civilization. The Roman civilization. In this Roman civilization, I'll take you just in a brief way. But before we proceed, I want you first to go through this video. Understand how it summarizes the Roman civilization, the ancient Roman civilization. I guess you enjoy it.
Rome, from mythical origins. From law and politics to architecture and civil engineering. From literature and the arts to the very languages we speak, the Roman Empire's echoes continue to be heard. The mythical origins of Rome's foundation begin in the Latin city of Alba Longa. There, the twin newborn sons of the war god Mars and a priestess were sentenced to death by their great uncle. Romulus and Remus were famously saved by a she-wolf and raised by a poor shepherd. As young men, they set out to establish their own city. But Remus was murdered by his brother in a dispute over its location. As king, Romulus declared Rome an asylum city, which very quickly attracted unsavory characters from across the Italian peninsula. Wives were needed for this mostly male population, so young women were abducted from neighboring cities and tribes in an act immortalized as the rape of the Sabine women. Despite this, within a matter of years, Romulus and the king of the Sabines arranged a co-rule. Roman kings. What happened next would be repeated throughout Rome's history, the mysterious or violent death of the ruler. First, it was the Sabine king, Titus Tatius, who died during a riot. Then Romulus disappeared during a storm. In the myth, he became the god Quirinus and left this earthly realm. He was likely killed by political rivals. During the reign of the second king, Numa Pompilius, key Roman elements appeared, including the 12-month calendar, the Vestal Virgins, and the position of pontifex, or priest. Numa was followed by 5 other kings, the last of whom, nicknamed Tarquin the Proud, not only murdered his predecessor, but was overthrown by the people. Thus was the Free Republic of Rome born in the 6th century BCE. The Roman Republic. Only a handful of aristocratic families, known as the patricians, held political and religious power. The plebeians, who made up the majority of Rome's population, were excluded. However, between 494 and 287 BCE, protests brought about some change, including the formation of the Concilium Plebis, dedicated tribunes, and the 12 tables of written laws. Progress was slow, but eventually the wealthy plebeians, or equestrian class, came to have the same rights as the patricians. However, many changes were only surface deep, and nothing changed for the poor. In the years that followed, the Republic was in an almost constant state of war, as it brought all of Italy under its control. By 130 BCE, Rome was a Mediterranean superpower, having expanded into North Africa and Spain following the Punic Wars with Carthage. The Consul Marius reformed the military. By 102 BCE, soldiers were paid for their service and given farms upon retirement. Wealthy men used their money to create loyal private armies. Corruption and greed in Rome led to civil wars starting in 88 BCE, when Marius's rival, General Sulla, marched his army into Rome. Sulla eventually won and became a consul. Julius Caesar. In 49 BCE, Rome braced for civil war again as General Julius Caesar, the hero of Gaul, crossed the Rubicon River into Italy with his army. He was about to face off against both the Senate and his former friend and political partner, Pompey. Pompey mounted an unsuccessful military campaign. He was assassinated on the orders of Pharaoh Ptolemy XIII, who hoped to win favor from Caesar. Instead, a fateful meeting between Ptolemy's sister, Cleopatra, and Caesar led to a famous love affair and the pharaoh's death. Back in Rome, Caesar's merciful treatment of his opponent had only increased his heroic status. The Senate declared him an absolute ruler for 10 years, but Caesar overextended his powers. After he made himself dictator for life in 44 BCE, he effectively signed his own death warrant. On the Ides of March, he was stabbed to death by some 40 senators on the floor of the government building. The liberators of the Republic faced the wrath of Romans. Civil war eventually erupted again, this time involving Caesar's trusted friend, General Mark Antony, Mark Antony's lover, Cleopatra, and Caesar's nephew and heir, Octavian. Octavian emerged victorious with the deaths of Antony and Cleopatra. Egypt, with its vital grain harvest, came under Rome's control. It was the end of the Republic and the beginning of the Empire. The early Roman Empire. Octavian, renamed Augustus, was declared emperor, son of the god Caesar, in 27 BCE. As the sole ruler, Augustus maintained at least an illusion that the Republic remained. While the Senate was still important, its real purpose was to give legitimacy to the emperor's decisions. Augustus's 41-year-long rule was a golden age. Peace reigned. There was prosperity and stability, and culture flourished. Augustus developed a road network and courier system. He established both a standing army and the Praetorian Guard, as well as creating dedicated police and firefighting services in Rome. He also embarked on a vast rebuilding project for the city. The empire enlarged dramatically, stretching into Central Europe, and the conquest of Spain was completed. Losing 3 legions in Germania in 9 AD, however, brought an end to Rome's expansion into that province. When Augustus died in 14 AD, his stepson, Tiberius, succeeded him. He was a competent but disinterested ruler. Instead, he delegated power to Sejanus, the ambitious commander of the Praetorian Guard. After Sejanus had Tiberius's heirs murdered, the emperor went on to a paranoia-fueled killing spree, convinced he was surrounded by enemies. Ironically, he may have been killed by his successor, Caligula, in 37 AD. Although Caligula was popular at first, soon his true nature emerged. Over the space of a 4-year rule, he declared himself a living god, executed many people, including family members, and embarked on incestuous liaisons with his sisters. The Praetorian Guard murdered him and appointed his uncle Claudius in his place. Claudius never expected to be emperor. Various physical challenges meant he had lived as a scholar, away from public view. Despite his lack of experience, Claudius was a good administrator and ordered building many roads, aqueducts, and canals across the empire. During his 13-year reign, the successful conquest of Britain began. In 54 AD, he died, possibly at the hands of his fourth wife, making way for her son, Nero. Everyone knows the story that Nero fiddled while Rome burned. He blamed the devastating Great Fire of 64 AD on the Christians, who were a troublesome sect. The fire distracted the public from the empire's empty coffers due to his overspending. Nero was widely despised and routinely dispatched his opponents. Eventually, the army and Praetorian Guard mutinied, and the Senate declared him an enemy of Rome, leading to his suicide in 68 AD. The Flavians. Nero left no heir. Over the following year, 4 men vied for the throne. It was the fourth, a general from the equestrian class called Vespasian, who triumphed in 69 AD. Vespasian worked hard during his 10-year reign, restoring the empire's finances and erecting many important buildings, including the symbol of Rome itself, the Colosseum. The looted treasures of the temple in Jerusalem bankrolled much of this building work. Vespasian had been the governor of Judea before becoming emperor, and his son, Titus, made a name for himself by putting down the Jewish resistance in that province. Titus governed for only 2 years before his brother succeeded him in 81 AD. Domitian had an autocratic streak, but seemed to have the support of both the public and the military. Rome prospered under him during his 15-year rule, but he got on the wrong side of court officials who had him murdered. The Nerva-Antonine dynasty. The 2nd century AD was an era of relative stability under the Nerva-Antonine emperors. Unusually, they were mostly adopted by their predecessors, rather than being their biological heirs. They included men such as Trajan, a charismatic military commander who expanded the empire from the Caspian Sea all the way to Scotland, Hadrian, whose famous wall formed a bulwark against marauding Scottish tribes in Britannia, and the philosopher-warrior Marcus Aurelius. His son, Commodus, was an incompetent egomaniac who fancied himself a gladiator. He was strangled by his trainer on the orders of the Praetorian prefect in 192 AD. The late Roman Empire. Commodus's death was the opening act in a century-long period known as the Imperial Crisis. 29 emperors came to power through plots and violent death over 5 decades. In 284 AD, Diocletian, a former soldier, sought to end the chaos. He split the empire into 2. He ruled the eastern portion, which was mainly Greek, and his friend Maximian the western part, which was Latin. They were senior emperors with the title of Augustus. Each half was further divided and governed by junior emperors or Caesars. This tetrarchy, or rule of 4, only lasted about 30 years, but it created peace and stability. Christians did not fare well under the new regime, as they refused to worship Diocletian, who had styled himself the embodiment of Jupiter on earth. Churches were torn down, sacred writings burned, and followers persecuted. Paradoxically, this only made Christianity stronger and ultimately led to the abdication of both Diocletian and Maximian in 305 AD. Infighting over who would legally succeed them ensued. Constantine, the son of the former Western Caesar, emerged victoriously. Constantine the Great. Once the ruler of the Western Empire, Constantine legalized Christianity, claiming that Christ had led him to victory over his rivals. However, he made sure not to alienate those who still followed the old religions. In the East, his counterpart, Licinius, had persecuted the sizable Christian minority out of fears they would rise up in support of Constantine. In 324 AD, Constantine and Licinius clashed in Byzantium. Constantine's win saw East and West united under one ruler. In the years that closely followed, Christianity flourished, and many of the less savory practices of the past were banned, such as ritual sacrifices, gladiatorial games, and crucifixion as a form of execution. In just 6 short years, a magnificent new Roman capital was established in the ancient city of Byzantium. New Rome, as it was known during Constantine's life, lay between the eastern and western edges of the empire on important trade routes. Eventually renamed Constantinople, it attracted people from across the empire in search of a better life. In time, the empire was split into east and west again. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire fell after years of fending off the military and political intrigues of barbarian interlopers. The Eastern Empire continued on as the Byzantine Empire, finally collapsing under the might of the Ottoman Turks in 1453. After almost a millennium, the Roman Empire had come to an end.
I hope you have really enjoyed the video clip and everything that has been explained there. But with me now is another summary of what you have already gone through. Now, as you have heard, the Roman civilization, it was in Europe, of course, but here we are looking at the Roman civilization itself. So Rome was founded in 753 BC by Romulus. Hence, the name Rome was named. So we see to it that Roman civilization, for Rome to be called Rome, it was because of Romulus. Romulus was a person. So he was the one who founded that city or that town of Rome. Then that Rome, it was named after him to say Romulus, Rome. So then it started to grow until it made a big civilization. So the Roman civilization grew along the west coast of the Italian peninsula. So when we talk of Italy, if you go to the map, if you have an atlas, search for an atlas and check for the map there, go to Italy, check where there is Italy in Europe. You find that Italy is like a peninsula. A peninsula, it is a land that goes deep into the water. For example, you have an ocean, then you have a land that goes inside the sea. So that one is called a peninsula. So Rome, it developed there in the Italian peninsula. So Italy is located in the present day peninsula of Italy, and this peninsula is extended into the Mediterranean Sea. So as we have said, that a peninsula or Italy is a peninsula, a land that goes into the sea. So where does Italy go? It develops into the Mediterranean Sea. The land of Italy has extended into the Mediterranean Sea. So inside Italy, that is where there was Rome. We have looked at the location of Rome or Roman civilization. Now, let us look at the factors that influenced the growth of the Roman civilization. Factors that influenced the growth of Roman civilization. So here are the factors that we are going to look at. There can be a number of factors, but here I have about 4 factors. The first one is trade. Trade. You know, when people trade, they exchange also ideas of civilization, how to get settled, how to make permanent things. Then the Roman civilization started. So they were trading with other people like the Egyptians, they were trading with maybe the Phoenicians, and many other people. Therefore, they copied ideas and they started living together, hence developed that civilization. Then strong government is another factor. So strong government. The leaders, starting from Romulus, then they had the strong leaders there who were able to develop good aspects that people wanted. And also conquest through wars. Rome developed through wars. They were conquering their neighbors. As a result, they grabbed the land and they expanded their civilization. And also geographical position. By geographical position, we mean a place that is located in a safe place. As we have said, Rome developed in Italy, which was a peninsula. So a peninsula is close to the sea. Hence, it was geographically good. That is the location. It was just very good because they had easy access to the lake and or to the sea or to the ocean. Then they were easily transporting their things from one place to the other. Therefore, a good geographical position is another factor that led to the rise of the Roman civilization. Now, having looked at the factors for the rise, let us look at the factors for the decline. We will not dig deeper because you have looked at that video. It has explained some of the other issues, but because our content or for the sake of our curriculum, we need just to look at the factor or the location. We need to focus on the factors for the growth and also the factors for the decline. So let us look at the factors for the decline of the Roman Empire or the Roman civilization. Number one is vastness of the empire made it difficult to defend and control it. So what we are saying here is that the empire became very big. As a result, it was difficult to control it. Today or nowadays, it's easy to control a big area because of technology, maybe fast transport. We talk of aeroplanes. Yeah, all those things you find that they are able to make civilization better and to live better, so people can extend very well. Now, so because it was very big then, vastness means big. It was big. It was vast. So another factor is division of Rome into Western and Eastern Empire made it difficult to protect the city and the other parts of the empire. So we are saying Rome was divided into Eastern Rome or Eastern Empire and Western Empire. As a result, it was very difficult. It was very difficult to control other parts or to protect other parts of the empire. So it was divided into East, West. So it was that reason again that led to the decline of the Roman civilization. Let us look at another factor, which is the decline in trade. We said that Rome developed because of trade, but there was a time when trade declined. Due to that, then the civilization had nothing to live on. They depended on trade. As a result, then when trade went down, then they were unable to develop their empire. Another one is rampant corruption in authority. Rampant corruption in authority. By the term rampant here, rampant, we mean high, we mean massive corruption. There was massive corruption amongst the leaders. So you know, when there is corruption, things don't move. They do not move. They just stand still because everyone wants to benefit from anyone else. Another factor for the decline was invasion by a number of European tribes, such as the Huns, the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, and the Franks. These are European tribes that also attacked Rome. As a result, Rome declined. So we have looked at these factors that led to the decline of the Roman civilization or the Roman Empire. I guess you're following in relation to what you have seen in that clip. Then you are able to see or to connect properly what happened in the Roman Empire. Now, let us come to the end by looking at the contributions. What has Rome contributed to the modern world? What do we enjoy that were started by the Romans? So there are a number of things that the world is still doing today, that we are still doing today, that started by the Romans. What are these? Number one is buildings. The Romans, they started building good houses, beautiful houses. As a result, You see, now we are just developing that. So the art of building, architecture, designing buildings, it also started with the Romans. Roads and bridges. Roads and bridges. Today, we see the roads, tarmac and the like. The roads, good roads, were started to be built by the Romans. Of course, sometimes the Chinese also did that in their civilization, but the Romans were the ones who made beautiful highways, beautiful pavements, beautiful roads, and also engineering. The Romans were also good at engineering. Sometimes they could drain a swampy area and turn that one into a living area or into agricultural area. So they were doing engineering. So they were good at engineering, making something out of nothing, something like that. Out of scratch, making something tangible. So they were able to engineer those things. And also government. Today we have different governments, like we talk of democracy. Remember last time when we were talking about the Greeks, we said they have contributed to democracy. But the system of the laws that we follow even up to now, the laws or the constitution that we have, Malawi constitution, that one is basically adopted from the Roman civilization. So we can see, although the Roman civilization declined by the Huns, or it was attacked by the Huns, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, and the Franks, but still more, what was started, some of the things that were started by the Romans, they are still done today. Also arts. We see that the arts, different arts, when we talk of arts, we talk of drawings, we talk of carvings, we talk arts in music, and different aspects. They were done by the Romans. And the law, I've mentioned about the law, which are found inside the government. So the law is much contributed by the Romans. The laws that different governments are following today, they are from the Romans. Now, having looked at that, we have come to the end of this unit where we are looking at the Roman civilization. But before we conclude, here I have, as usual, a small exercise for you. I have 6 questions here. I have 6 questions, so you pause a little bit, pause the video, so that you follow through these lessons. You follow through the questions. After you follow through the questions, write them somewhere, so that you provide the answers. Don't just cross-check directly from what we have discussed. If you have listened or you were attentive, test yourself that you were really attentive by answering these questions. So next time we are meeting again, and as we meet next time, we are going to look at the other unit, which is unit number 10, and unit number 10 will be looking at the human rights. So be there next time as we look at the human rights. What are human rights? What are the examples of human rights? This is another good, very good unit that you need also to pay attention to. So until next time, thank you so much.